Hello and welcome to the booktube channel, Jack in the Book Stack, where I talk about a wide variety of book genres and the bookish lifestyle. And if you love books as much as I do, be sure that you are subscribed down below because I make a ton of different reading vlogs and book reviews across so many different books, and I'd love to chat with you. In today's reading vlog, I am checking out Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is secret project number 1, which means he wrote it in complete secret. He hid the files on his computer for 2 years, even from his team. He wrote it specifically for his wife, but luckily for us, he decided to publish it. I have recently become a huge fan of this author. I say that I am in my Brandon Sanderson era, and I'm even going to create a playlist and link it down below of all the videos I film where I am checking out his books because I'm making great progress on them and I want to share the journey. So check out that playlist below. For this book, I really went into it with the perspective of who should read it. Obviously, Brandon Sanderson is a well-known fantasy author, so would this book be good for fantasy readers? And would it be good for non-fantasy readers? If you've heard of this author but you don't typically like fantasy, could you enjoy this book? What kind of mood does it pair with? These are the questions I really had in the back of my mind when I was reading this. So we're gonna go ahead and read this together. I'm going to come back at the end, do a full book review, and also talk about who should read Tress of the Emerald Sea. I'm really laughing at myself right now because I had grand expectations of a nautical themed adventure story, and with a title that has Emerald Sea baked right into it, you can see where I got those expectations, right? But we learn early on in chapter 1 that just because there is an ocean doesn't necessarily mean it is made up of water. Needless to say, I did not see that coming. So I made this seafood dinner to be on theme with the book, and I don't even know if that really counts, but A for effort. I am on page 139, or chapter 21 in other words, and my spoiler-free reaction so far is that I am really enjoying this. It has very strong fairy tale vibes, and we have a very quirky main character who loves collecting cups, which seems so simple, but I'm actually really enjoying hearing her talk about cups and why she adores them so much. Tress lives on a remote island until one day the man she loved is taken away from her and she must venture out into the unknown to save him. A few things that I love about the book this far in: I love the supportive parents that Tress has. That's a very underrepresented demographic in books across all genres, I think, so it's really refreshing and nice to see. I also adore our magical animal companion that we meet in this book. It really adds to those fairy tale vibes. And the gender equality that we see in this world is excellent. So far, I would say this is a very plot-driven story with a very engaging writing style and a very wholesome tone. But I'll do a full book analysis when I do the review at the end of this video, once I finish, to tell you if you should read Tress in the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson.
I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed.
We're back now that I have finished Tress of the Emerald Sea, and I will tell you that I loved this book. I think I would rate it a 4.5 stars out of 5. Let's talk about some of the specifics, and then I'll get into who should read this book or what type of mood does this pair well with. First and foremost, let's talk about the characters. Tress, the title character in the book, is, surprise, surprise, our main character. She is 18 years old, she is very soft-spoken, she is very gentle, and I really enjoyed her getting pushed outside of her comfort zone. She's used to being very polite, she doesn't want to impose on anybody or inconvenience them. So this is really about her finding her voice and finding strength in asking for help, and that she's not really an inconvenience to anybody. She is the kind of character that I love reading about because she is so intelligent, and she is in this situation where she has no experience. She has no idea what she's doing, but she works hard and she finds a way, and she does it all with kindness. Kindness is at the forefront of everything she does, and my Disney heart really likes to see that. These side characters are great. I loved everybody that was on the ship that Tress encountered. They all have their different quirks, and also they have different unique things that make them happy. And I loved that. I loved the character that loved to haggle and negotiate and strike deals. It was his love language, something that just made him really happy. I loved the character who was a horrible shot with pistols and a cannon, but she loved them. She had such a fascination for weapons. They spoke to her. She loved them, adored them. So everyone had their thing. And even Tress, I mentioned, she loved cups. Something so simple, but she was enthusiastic about it. And I loved that joy in those simple things. And it made for a very quirky cast of characters. The atmosphere of this was absolute perfection. So we're on a different planet here, and I mentioned that the oceans are not made up of water, which I luckily was not spoiled for. I didn't know what the ocean was made up of, so I'm not going to tell you that either, but it was so intriguing, and I loved all the dynamics of it and the different things that triggered it. And I forgot even common questions like how normal weather patterns that we know today on this planet could affect this. I wasn't even thinking about that until it happened. So the atmosphere was so cool, and even though it wasn't a water-filled ocean, it still had those nautical vibes because we're on a ship, there's rations of food, it's not the freshest food, right? Just a very unique world, and I loved how it was described. It was incredible. The writing style of Tress was something that I found very charming and engaging as well. Brandon Sanderson really breaks the fourth wall in this book, and our narrator is a character that you may be familiar with from the Cosmere if you've read his other books. If not, no big deal. But I really liked this style, speaking directly to the reader and the perspective that we had. If there's anything that made me drop this from a 5-star to a 4.5, it was probably the pacing of the plot. So I really liked the plot of Tress going after someone she loves, but it did seem to last a really long time. And it is a very plot-driven book. There was a lot going on, but I kind of was like, okay, can we get to the point already? At times it was kind of difficult to pick the book up, but once I got going, I was really into it. So I don't know if this is a reflection of the mood that I was in when I was reading this, or if it truly is an issue with the pacing, because lots was going on. I would not call this a slow-paced book. It's just that it seemed to drag on for a while. So I don't really know how to describe that, but that is the nitpick thing I have that just keeps this from being a 5-star for me. The intelligence factor is really what made me adore this book, though. I mentioned when I was talking about the characters that Tress herself was very intelligent. So that plays into this as well. I like how she found a way to make things happen. But the overall story was incredibly intelligent. How things came together, what the reveals were. I felt like it was brilliant plot twists, I guess, but just very, very satisfying read. So I'm really happy with the intelligence of this book. I mentioned in my check-in the tone of Tress was very wholesome, and that held true the entire book. It was very wholesome and whimsical with fairy tale vibes, but very much an adult book. Not that there was crass humor or anything. I think this actually might be a good book for all ages, but the tone of it was very heartwarming. You could even say there was a little bit of found family aspect that was heartwarming as well and contributed to that tone. But really the theme of this too, in that it's not a weakness to ask for help, as long as you're the type of person that deserves the help, is what's explained to us. So kind of that emphasis on kindness, teamwork, and just doing things for each other. Now for the ultimate question, who should read Tress of the Emerald Sea? Well, I've already mentioned that this would be good for all ages. It is not a YA or new adult book, but there's nothing that makes it adults only. So it could be read by any ages. There is a lot of magic in it, so I think fantasy readers and those that are experienced in that genre would find this very intriguing and hopefully unique. I thought it was unique, but then again, I haven't read a lot of fantasy. And new to fantasy readers, I also think would really enjoy it if you enjoy fairy tale type stories. Something that I really liked and found unique about this is I feel that a lot of fantasy stories involve taking down the government or a corrupt king or something political of that nature. But this one is really based on this quest or this journey to save someone that Tress loves and encountering all this magic along the way and all these different people. So I loved that the story was more charming in that regard. Now the tone of the book and the writing style with this sarcasm that is going on and this breaking the fourth wall and kind of witty remarks to the reader, I think has to be paired with the right mood. So I really like that style. In fact, kind of that cheeky humor I saw in Mistborn Era 2 by Brandon Sanderson, and I think a lot of people, it rubbed them the wrong way. So I think that's why I say you have to be in the right mood for something more lighthearted in that writing style and that sarcasm and that humor, because sometimes it doesn't always translate for everybody, or it doesn't translate for everybody all the time. So if I was really cranky, like this might annoy me a little bit, but I was also in the right mood because I really enjoyed the silliness of it at a lot of times. The silliness was so fun. So that's my answer. I think Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson would appeal to a wide variety of readers depending on the mood that you are in. It was a very charming, whimsical read. I'm so happy that I experienced this. It was exactly what I was looking for with a fairy tale type story. So I'm excited to continue on in my reads of his secret projects. The reviews on them seem to be hit or miss, so I'm excited to continue reading them and telling you what I think about them. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in this reading vlog. I will see you in the next video.